This man just cut my throat. I'm now falling. I'm out of air. I'm out of cognizant. And I'm going to die. And there's not one person here that cares that's going to help me.
When I heard those words, it hit me in the gut. It's not just a cry of desperation. It's a mirror of how invisible someone can feel in a moment of absolute horror. And what's worse is realizing that the silence of the crowd, the indifference of the system, can be just as lethal as the knife itself. That thought doesn't leave me easily. It lingers because it forces me to ask myself how often we look away when someone's already falling. And maybe the most terrifying part is knowing that if it happened to her, it could happen to any of us. And as Victor Davis Hanson makes clear, the silence, denial, and suppression of truth are at the very core of what this video exposes.
The judges and the officials who let this guy out more than 14 times could not help her or did not help her, and all the people on the light rail did not help her, at least until too late. I understand some did come in.
Yeah, I think it happened a little while ago, and the reason we didn't learn that as a nation was the mayor had suppressed the video. The mayor of Charlotte had said, this is a tragedy. It was not a tragedy. It was an act of deliberate evil. Didn't just happen. Number two, she said that we should not use this to judge homelessness. Why not? Because this happens a lot from homeless people. Number three, she said she didn't want to use this incident for political purposes, but by the very suppression of it, it was a political act on her part. And the subtext was, we are getting battered because liberal judges, liberal prosecutors, the defund the police, the Black Lives Matter have created a crime epidemic in 2020 and 21. Now the left says it's going down. I have two responses for that. We all know that left-wing jurisdictions, especially big cities, have not been cooperating with the FBI to send in the full tallies of murders and breakdowns on the nature of the assailant and the assailed. So I don't think that they're that accurate, but more or less if you look at today's figures, 2024 being the latest, it's still higher than 2019. So it's very high, and she doesn't want that, nor did Governor Stein want that to be released. That was the first thing. The second is the media did not cover it for a week and would not cover it. And to the degree that it did cover it, finally out of shame, things like ABC or CBS or NBC said things like the alleged murderer. When you watch the video, there is no alleged murder. You see who did it. So that was another striking thing. And then when they did report alleged murder and purported and all of this stuff, they did it in the context of Republicans pounce. This is being used by Republicans. It's not being used. It's just there to see that she left a war-torn country and found it more war-torn in the United States, more unsafe. And then there was a blanket of silence that this had a racial component. So the usual suspects, Al Sharpton, you know who they are, they all came out and said the right is using this. Then we found out that he muttered, and it was apparently visible on the audio version, or people reported, I killed that white girl, or I killed a white girl. So it was a racially motivated, and that was not reported. The Wall Street Journal that I've been picking on, its news division, it was really late. And even when it did finally report it, I think yesterday, it did it in the context of the right that is using this. If you look at the story, who are the losers in this? The people culpable? The media did not report it. And why didn't they? Because they have a pre-existing narrative that black people, as all non-white people, are victims and they're Marxist binaries. And you cannot produce stories that suggest that they are victimizers. So if we do have stories that contradict the narrative, they either editorialize them or they don't air them. And why do they do that? Because they think for their higher moral purposes, you cannot have black assailants attacking white people, because that's not their narrative. The narrative is white people, white police hurt black people. And yet, again and again, as we've said, that demographic from 15 to 40 of black males, which is only about 3% of the population, they're committing 50 to 55% of violent assaults, rapes, murders. No one wants to talk about that. And to the degree they do talk about it, they have to incur charges of being racist. The black left-wing community is completely culpable. They will, and in the sense that they will not discuss this. They will not discuss why black males inordinately are committing violent crimes, mostly in the big cities, mostly against other blacks. You'd think they would want to address that. Only about 7 or 8% of their victims are white. But that's a lot of white people, given the amount of crimes that they commit.
In this video, what struck me most is that the crime itself was horrific, but the silence that followed may be even worse. Victor Davis Hanson shows that the truth was not simply overlooked, it was deliberately suppressed, reframed, and buried under words like alleged to fit a convenient narrative. My personal view is that this silence is not neutral, it is corrosive. Because when leaders, prosecutors, and media choose denial over honesty, they leave every one of us more vulnerable to violence and injustice. What happened here is not an isolated tragedy. It is a warning. If truth is hidden, justice collapses, and society drifts into a darkness of its own making.